Hello. Got my favorite hot cocoa mug here. It's made of glass. For some reason it feels wrong to use it for anything other than hot cocoa, so that's always what I use it for. We're up in the cozy vibes tonight because it is Sunday evening, the worst part of the week. I don't even dislike Mondays. Monday mornings are fine. So I really have no reason to have qualms with Sunday evening, but I really do. I really have qualms. Okay. Wait. Gotta get a thumbnail with the fire in the picture. Okay. Oh God. Okay. So, gluten. Obviously everybody's heard about gluten at this point in fad diet history. I have a very interesting history with gluten. So I guess this is the story of how I cured my gluten intolerance. Yeah, we'll go with that. Finley's not intolerant of gluten. This is his dumpling that he keeps bringing me. So I stopped eating gluten. I mentioned in my last video that I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis when I was 14, and it's a chronic digestive disease. Really like not so good gut symptoms, and I tried a lot of different diets to address it, and gluten intolerance was very much like just entering the public awareness at that time. So I guess the first couple of diets that I tried for my UC did explicitly eliminate gluten. Both of them actually eliminated all grains. I did raw vegan and then I did specific carbohydrate diet. So I wasn't eating gluten anyway, but even after I had my surgery and started relaxing my diet a little bit, I still avoided gluten. And my clearest memory, honestly, of my rationale for avoiding gluten was some combination of the way that it was talked about. So it was like very like trendy for alternative health sites to like write articles about gluten intolerance back then. And it was always like, gluten is a protein that blah, 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 and it disrupts the tight junctions in your gut and blah, blah, blah. And can like really easily lead to immune reactivity and et cetera, et cetera. So like, while there was awareness that like there is a specific disease that involves significant sensitivity to gluten, which is celiac disease, which I did not have. I was tested for it, didn't have it. But at the same time, all of the alternative health discourse about gluten was very much in the realm of like, mechanistically, this is just a harmful substance. So even if you don't have celiac disease, like you should probably be afraid of it or like try cutting it out. And like a lot of people who didn't have celiac disease would experiment with cutting it out and their lives would get immeasurably better. So like, it's not like that was all fake, but I have always been I've always found mechanistic rationale, very convincing. So the fact that it was all explained sort of on a molecular level, what does gluten do in your gut, that was very compelling to me. Sorry, one moment. Get down, you little critters. Wait, no, you have to see this. This is our nightly routine. My cat, my black cat, Toothless, gets bored and likes to cause chaos, and the dog, Finley, knows that Toothless is not allowed up on the bookshelf. So Finley likes to police the cats. They jump up there. And all Toothless knows is that if he jumps up on the bookshelf, he gets a real big reaction from the dog. So, yeah. Welcome to the Luck household. Gluten. So, yeah, combined with the mechanistic explanations about how gluten acts in your digestive tract, I had like one or two very formative experiences where I had accidentally ingested gluten and had notably severe symptoms. And I like one or two instances tops, but that combined with this like very powerful, just like mental framework for what gluten does in the body. And this idea that like, if a thing exists that harms people's guts, if it's harmful to anybody, it's obviously going to be harmful to me because I am a sensitive person with a chronic digestive disease. So like, I don't know if that reasoning makes sense to anybody else. I'm sure I'm not the only one who has like framed things in that way. Just like, if this is a problem for anybody, it's going to be a problem for me. And for those reasons, I strictly avoided gluten for 15 years, from like age 14 until age 29. And so around like 2 years ago, I embarked on a program. There's a lot to this story, and I'm going to try to keep it focused on the gluten thing. I'll talk more about the program and everything in a different video. But I did this program called DNRS. It stands for Dynamic Neural Retraining System. And I sought this program out for a number of different reasons, completely not related to gluten. But like the idea of it is that it's a brain retraining program that people have used successfully to cure various like physical illnesses, and food intolerances being one of them. So that was not my main focus. I was very used to avoiding gluten. It has become very easy in the modern age. But the whole way that the program is structured and the types of like activities that you do, it's like very visualization heavy, and it works best if you can identify specific triggers to focus on. And what I was intending to use it for was a lot more just like trying to improve overall baseline state of my nervous system and not being able to identify any specific triggers that really affected me. So as I started working through this program, when I would be prompted to, okay, think of specific triggers, think of visualizations where you're visualizing yourself like incorporating this trigger without becoming ill from it or whatever. I just like the only thing I could think of really to like specific to focus on was gluten. So sort of without even intending to, a lot of my work during this program was like a lot of time spent visualizing being able to eat whatever I wanted. Bread and pizza and whatever. Being able to travel, that was a really big one. Just like being able to travel and not have to look at menus ahead of time, not even necessarily having to speak the language, like literally just not having to worry about what I eat at all. And at the time when I started this program, that was a completely foreign, totally foreign concept to me. Like, I had grown into an adult with a restricted diet, with a strictly restricted diet. I was not one to cheat. So yeah, I remember like doing my first few like visualizations with this thing, like visualizing like traveling to Greece or Italy or whatever, and blah 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 blah. And like I actually would like cry at the end of these visualizations because it felt so just like impossible. It just felt so impossible that that could be my reality. And in this program, they really encourage you to like embody that reality, and like affirmations and stuff like that, where like you're kind of pushed into acting as though it's possible, even if you really believe that it's not. And that kind of thing is just very like emotionally evocative. Anyway, so I did this program for like 6 months. It was like an hour a day for 6 months. And again, not intending specifically to like heal my gluten intolerance or anything, really trying to like fix other health issues. And just again, I'll talk more about that in a video. I'm trying to keep the topic constrained. But I like, this was just the clearest concrete trigger that I could work with. So I eventually, oh gosh, how do I tell this story? Because there were like, the way that I ended up reintroducing gluten into my diet was very circumstantial. First, it's also like a little bit embarrassing to talk about, because I'm just gonna spoil the, it's not even spoiling the story. Like, I'm pretty sure, well, okay, I have two hypotheses for how gluten affected me. One hypothesis is that I never had a gluten sensitivity ever, and I just was so affected by this like mechanistic description of gluten, combined with these couple of experiences where like my brain clocked these symptoms as related to the gluten, but I also had like, I had a chronic disease, so it could have just happened to be a particularly bad symptom day. Like, I can't in good conscience recall these couple events and say without a doubt, yes, this was because I was glutened. So that's one possibility. The second possibility is that I was sensitive to gluten when I still had my colon and still had active ulcerative colitis, and the instances I recall of being sensitive to it were caused by gluten, were like genuine gluten sensitivity. And then when I had the surgery to remove my colon and didn't technically have ulcerative colitis anymore, that at that point I was no longer sensitive to gluten, because the fact of the matter is I didn't eat gluten for 15 years and now I eat it all the time. The reason I didn't eat it for 15 years is because of an alleged gluten sensitivity, but I'm pretty sure that the work that I did with DNRS did not heal a real food sensitivity. And what I'm very conscious of, like, this just, it's, I know that it's very common for people with chronic illnesses, food sensitivities, whatever, to be accused of making things up, to be accused of like having problems that aren't actually real. And I would never ever want to add fuel to that fire, because I do genuinely believe from the bottom of my heart that like if somebody is suffering, it's like real, it's real suffering. And no good comes from minimizing that in any way. But I have certainly experienced personally that my brain will falsely attribute causality. And this, I believe, is likely a situation where that happened. And the really significant part, I think, is how deep my fear of gluten was, and how much psychological work I had to do in order to get to the point where I could eat it again. Like, I I literally did like visualizations about eating gluten for 6 months, an hour a day, before it even felt like a remote possibility that maybe I could try like a bite of something. And that is wild to me. Like, that is wild. Like there are probably, I don't know, there are probably parts of like the whole experience that I haven't fully processed as to like how even to explain it to people, because like I know that people are going like, obviously I have friends and they knew me as somebody who couldn't have gluten, and now they know me as somebody who can eat whatever she wants. And it's like hard to explain how that happened without like simplifying it too much in either direction. So like there are definitely people who think that I legitimately cured a gluten intolerance. I don't think that that's true. I definitely cured a severe gluten phobia, which is no small feat, and was no small feat. And I do think it's also possible that like I was afraid of it such that like I always had this intuition almost that if I was ever like glutened accidentally, like at a restaurant or something, I would not want to know. I wouldn't want to know about it. And that almost kind of tells you that like I don't know, it's always felt like my brain has a lot of power over my physiology. I remember in college having to sit through a lecture, an anatomy and physiology lecture about how vomiting works. And I had to get up and leave and go to the bathroom in the middle of class because I felt like I was going to throw up, just like hearing about it too much. And I know that's not uncommon, but like if you think about it, it's really truly remarkable that the brain has that much power over your physiology. And it has definitely been a lifelong pattern for me of being afraid of like the power of my mind to cause me physical distress. So I think that probably played into the whole thing somehow as well. But yeah, okay, it's been 19 minutes and I am trying to keep these no longer than 20. That was pretty disjointed, and I'm not really sure what the message is there, but yeah, I might just leave it at that, and this is possibly something I would talk about more at a later date. Okay, yeah, I'll leave it there.